Your patrons are your celebrities.
Yes.
They are your bell cows. They are the ones out there announcing
They're-
to everybody what they love about your restaurant all the time.
They need to be
And
they need yes. They need to be on the
keep that in
P&L
mind.
statement. Patron asset needs to be on the P&L statement. Trust me.
Absolutely agree with you. Couldn't be better said. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Mastering Restaurant Revenue, another episode for you, the podcast where restaurant dreams meet real world strategy. We're your host, Bruce Russo, who has designed and developed more than 560 or so restaurant concepts alone, and Diane Armitage, who's also been in the restaurant consulting and restaurant marketing world for 30 years. So between the two of us, we've got 75 years between us, and you guys are starting to ask us a lot of questions on this podcast. So today we are answering just a few more questions from the first initial ones that have rolled into our YouTube community, as well as our masteringrestaurantrevenue.com community. Always welcome to send us questions because we love helping people out with these kinds of questions. Okay, so first of all, Bruce, how are you doing?
I'm good.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. So we've had 2 episodes wrap already with questions about restaurant build and restaurant design. We've got one person here who's asking a question about marketing, and he was like, this one is more for Diane. So I will talk about this briefly, and then we're going to get into a really interesting conversation about the next question coming up. So this particular gentleman, Chris from Philly, said that when you talk about the 3 foundational revenue streams, I get your 3 pillars. Number 1 pillar is increase your clients. Number 2 pillar is increase the average transaction size. And number 3 is increase the number of transactions. And when I did the episode about this, I talked about how you don't want to just focus on one pillar, like a diving board. You want to focus on building out 3 pillars at the same time. And even if you move those by 5% or 10% or 15% each pillar, you're going exponential in your revenue instead of geometric in your revenue. And he had said that you mentioned briefly that your regular patrons can help you increase clients. So when it comes to regular patrons helping you increase clients, I consider this more about number 3, increasing the number of your transactions, because you're not spending the marketing dollars on the front end to get those new clients in the door. You are using joint ventures and endorsements to get new clients from your existing clients. So he said, your regular patrons helping you increase clients, how do you suggest that this happen? And so I will give you an example of something that happened in my town that I watched rather closely, and they've tried it for 2 years, and it hasn't been incredibly successful, but they are trying to paper the community around them, and they're targeting a specific kind of audience that they believe is more fit for their concept. And then they send them an invitation to come in and try 2 dinners for free. And it's a great idea for the most part. But what's happening here is that the regular patrons who are going in and spending thousands of dollars a year with this particular restaurant are a little miffed because they have friends who've never been in the restaurant saying, hey, I got this free thing for 2 free dinners at this great restaurant. Did you get your postcard? We could go together. And they're like, no, we didn't get a postcard, even though we're spending tens of thousands of dollars there. And so this caused a bit of a ripple, right? Because the regular patrons felt sort of miffed and not really taken care of. And the newbies were going in and getting this free meal. And so what I would do instead is you want your biggest fans to bring in your newest clients. And if they are your biggest fans and if they're talking about you, they're going to be talking about you whether you're incentivizing them to bring in your clients or not. And when I say incentivize, I don't mean you're paying them money, but when they are coming in, you're appreciating them. You may buy them a cocktail. You may buy them an appetizer every now and then. You may come out and talk to them. They love having you talk to them and remember your stories and your names. It's just like being a great bartender, but extending that through the entire front of house, including your back of house chefs. I think it's great when a chef will wander out and talk to a few of the regular patrons, even new patrons, introduce himself or herself, but really make those return clients feel great. Because if you make them feel like the most important person in the world, they will do anything for you to help you grow your business. So what I would do is I would send an invite to those regular patrons, the ones who are spending the most in your entity each year, with an invite to bring 2 of their friends with you for that dinner. Then they are going out and making the invite themselves. They feel privileged. They feel honored that you thought of them to bring 2 friends in who've never tried the restaurant before. They are fans all the way through the restaurant experience because they know you, they know your menu, they want to talk about what they know as they're sitting with their new friends at the table, and those new friends become instant patrons of your restaurant. That's the easiest way to turn it around. And you can do it in small clumps throughout the year instead of doing it in one big free dinner that ends up being a very costly experience for you, not only not only revenue wise, but as far as the psychic wise with your return patrons and the people who love you the most. You got anything to add to that, Mr. Bruce?
Yes, I do. Because, I do budgets on projects all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And, we talk about capital and we talk about this and we talk about that. And so, you got the top 5 assets of a restaurant: the building, the kitchen, the staff, the wine inventory. But, the biggest account that never has money in it is the relationship capital line item.
Yes,
and it
relationship.
amazes
I
me.
love that.
I mean, that's one of your top assets is the restaurant, is your customer base. But I don't ever see relationship capital as a line item, just blank. But yet you go down to the marketing line item and they got $2 million there.
Right.
And it's
Or even $200,000 there.
It doesn't matter. Whatever that number is, the relationship number is always left empty. And
exactly.
I can tell you, for the dollar that you input, that is a heck of a lot more. I mean, you're in the marketing business, marketing. So what is return on a marketing dollar? What do you typically see? 5 cents on a dollar? 8 cents on a dollar?
Typically even less than that on a marketing dollar. To get a new client in the door, you mean? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So let's take, you have a client base. They're the asset to the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you've already paid to get them there.
You have. Okay. So utilize that asset.
Exactly, that's my point. So is it a big deal operational wise to buy that couple of bottle of wine? We know what a wine program is. We know what the markup is on wine.
Well, we know what a couple cocktails is.
Okay.
I mean, for heaven's sake.
Here's the thing. If the owner is looking at, well, you know how much that bottle of wine is? Yeah, I do. But let me tell you something. If you could take the price that you paid for that and you put in wholesale dollars in marketing, your marketing dollars aren't wholesale. You're paying the whole enchilada. This is wholesale dollars that you're putting into the asset that you already have.
Exactly.
And you look at the return on those wholesale dollars, it's probably 50, 60%. And let me tell you, again, you're in the marketing business. I don't know any marketing you can do that you can get a 50 or 60% return.
Absolutely. And the other important thing about the 3 pillars we talk about, I mean, increasing clients is that new clientele, right? And if you're putting the marketing budget into the number 1 pillar and you're not taking care of 2 or 3, number 2 is increasing the size of the transaction per patron, right? That is staff training. That is teaching your staff how to sell, how to converse, how to talk to them about this particular bottle of wine versus this particular bottle of wine. It's about having them add on appetizers. It's about all of that training that is not about a hustle. It's about making the experience better for the existing clientele who are sitting in the tables, sitting
Okay.
in the bar stools.
So in that training program, how many times have you seen, okay, we're going to spend the next 30 minutes talking about when an existing client brings a new client.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is our program for rewarding that existing client for bringing that new one.
Correct.
Have you ever
And you
seen
know
that in a
what?
training? Have you ever seen that in a training program?
Never. I have
Never.
never seen it in training. Never.
But
No.
let me tell you
And
this, the successful owners that are in the $100 to $200 ticket average, why do you think they're so successful?
agreed. Agreed. There is nobody who can sell your restaurant concept better than a patron who loves you.
Exactly.
I have friends who eat out every single day of the week. Every single day of the week. They are foodies. They love it. And
Yep.
when they go to their home in Palm Desert, they know every restaurant that they love to go there. They know all of the people there. They know the owners there. And they come back to me, who never goes to Palm Desert, and they talk about the restaurants there. They are sold on them. This is how you increase the size or the number of transactions in that third pillar. You're relying on your existing client base. Because I'll tell you, when they start getting their friends to go in with them, they call up their friends. They call me up. They say, hey, you
Yep.
want to go down to this restaurant? We're getting some happy hour, blah, blah, blah. Hey, you want to join us next Thursday at this particular restaurant? Of course I do, because I had a great time there the last time I was there with you. They bring their friends. This is increasing the number of transactions without putting a dollar into that marketing budget on the front end.
And here's the thing, buy a bottle of wine. That inventory is already paid for. It costs you absolutely nothing to deliver
Absolutely
that,
nothing.
that asset, to deliver that
You already
product
own the
to that.
corkscrew. You already own the glasses.
And you're already paying for the light bill and the air conditioning.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I mean,
it is. When you came out here and you were in Laguna for one day, we went to a restaurant that night. And
yeah.
tell me how much you loved walking in there and having them greet me, meet you, having the
Yes.
chef come out, greet me, meet you. How did you feel about that experience at the end of the evening?
Well, it was a, 2.5 hour experience.
Mm-hmm.
We were best friends.
Yes.
I was
Best friend.
I was friendship wise, you and I were equal when I left.
I agree with you completely. They are more than happy to see you come back in again, and they're going to remember you every time you come back in,
But
because they took the time to get to know you, to spend a little time with you.
But let me tell you the most important thing what they were doing for you and I at the counter,
Mm-hmm.
they were doing exactly the same thing for everybody else that was in that restaurant. Nobody got treated. We didn't get treated, although it looked like we were getting treated like two celebrities. But we were sitting at the kitchen. We were sitting at the cook line. We watched every effort that went into our dishes went into the same dishes that were served in the dining room.
Correct.
That's
And
how
I'll
you
tell
run a
you-
restaurant operation.
And I'll tell you, that chef will always walk out, and sometimes there are two of them, the father, son,
Yeah.
the two of them. That chef will always walk out at least 2 or 3 times during the entire service to talk to people at the tables. I'll tell you, it's like I said, if they make you feel like the most important person on the earth, you're going to come back again and again and again and again.
Yep.
You're going to bring your friends. And when you give
Now-
them the opportunity to come and have dinner with you, on the house, or, a special, come try the new wines we have. Here's 2 tickets for you to bring your friends, and they get to come in and taste the newest wines that you're considering. That kind of a thing. Done.
I agree. And I can tell you the next time I go to Laguna, I know where I'm going to dinner. Why wouldn't I?
I know. It is really amazing how they work on building out that community from the community. And in Laguna Beach, especially, we have such an issue with, we have a huge tourist season, high season, and it only lasts for about 4 months. But our whole world changes when those people descend on us.
Yeah.
And so many of the restaurant operators don't understand that the other 8 months of the year, belong to the residents. And this is your chance to really get to know those people, get them into your restaurants again, have them bring their friends in, because even the residents are a little hesitant about going out during high season because it's just this. But I'll tell you, one of the great things is, I actually have a few restaurants here in this town who will cater to residents and make sure that they get them in at every possible opportunity they can during the high season when they see their name. And this is why it's so important to have that open table where you've got notes on your regular patrons for any host at the host stand, so that they understand that these are regulars. You treat them like long lost friends, even if you're a brand new host.
Okay, so yes, the regular patrons need the special. They're the special breed. Mm-hmm. They got access 12 months of the year, 7 days a week. And when the tourists come, every owner wants that business. But what the tourists need to understand, and there needs to be marketing done in this direction. Hey, you're a tourist here. The restaurants love to have you here. But here's the big but. We got our restaurants pretty full 7 days a week with regular patrons. So make your reservation early and be courteous of every patron in our restaurant, please. Be courteous of our servers. You know what happens. You know what happens when it's high season. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that come that we don't know where they got their human being sticker.
Or they missed the sticker entirely.
Exactly. No, exactly.
I know.
And their demands exceed anybody's agenda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's so important. You know how we talk about ugly Americans over in Europe? Like the Europeans are always like, oh, those ugly Americans, right? It's so important to understand that when you are visiting any community, that community has roots, and that community is a community that serves its residents. And when you just barge your way in and start demanding things, you're not going to make friends with anybody.
No.
And, I was actually talking with some friends this weekend who have difficulty going out with another couple that they go out with because one of the party in that couple is very demanding, always wanting to get attention, always wanting to get something from the kitchen that's not on the menu, this and that and everything else. Yeah. And it's always when they're out of town and, at a resort or, visiting another town, something like that. This person, I don't think, would ever do it to their own people in their own community, but they do it outside of their community and not recognizing that they have just dropped into an existing community that has the same roots that they are coming from. So start treating those people well.
Well, I would have to say that if they're that good at it, they're doing it all the time, just that not as
correct
demanding locally as they are when they're out of town. So
yeah, true. It's that human being sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody, there's people out there that just, they do an excellent job and practice the hell out of it. I prefer not to be around that kind of people.
No, I agree. But I agree with you completely. It's uncomfortable for the table when you're in a situation like that.
Very much so.
But I'll tell you, when you have your patrons pushing you, I always talk about third-party endorsement being the most powerful endorsement around. And, this is why celebrities are paid to endorse. Or if you get a celebrity to actually endorse you without paying that celebrity, and everyone knows that the celebrity just endorsed you because they love you, that's huge. Your patrons are your celebrities.
Yes.
They are your bell cows. They are the ones out there announcing to everybody what they love about your restaurant all the time.
They need to be, they need to be on the P&L statement. The patron asset needs to be on the P&L statement. Trust me.
Absolutely agree with you. Couldn't be better said. Okay. I love that we chatted about that, but I do want to move into this other quick one here. Unless you have more to say about marketing, but boy, relationships versus the marketing on the P&L.
So, I I could drop my little tidbits every now and then, but when I do, they're typically a pretty big balloon.
Yeah, your tidbits are great. Okay, let's talk about something that is an interesting question from somebody. So Carol, who is in Northern California, she said,
Okay.
with all of Bruce's experience, at what point does Bruce walk away from a restaurant design contract? And at what point does he walk away from a restaurant build contract? And does he do one without the other?
Okay, number one, yes, I do one without the other. My preference for both myself and the client is to do the design and the build. And I'm going to tell you why. It saves them a ton of money. And the number one ingredient that it saves is time. It's probably the most streamlined way to get from A to Z, because you got one person to call. You got one person to ask. I mean, and we control everything. We control, the colors, the furniture, the fixtures. And what a lot of owners think, well, I could do that myself and save money. Yeah, you can, but let me just tell you about this business. This is a tough business that I'm in. The restaurant business is tough business. And why these owners, and we do it every day. We buy furniture every day. We buy kitchens every day. We buy marble every day. And we have suppliers that count on us. And we have suppliers that envy our business. I don't understand when a restaurant owner comes to me, well, I'm going to buy all the furniture because I can get it cheaper.
Right.
Well, let me just ask you a question, Mr. Owner. How many restaurants of furniture have you bought? Well, I never have. But I know a guy knows a guy that can get you. I said, we run away from those deals like that. And so, we just went through one. We took it all the way to the end, and here's my final number. He says, well, I don't have that much to spend. Well, this is a great time to find out. Well, but I'm going to build a restaurant because I got somebody that can do it for half of what you can. I said, trust me, you're not building this restaurant for 100% less than what I bid it for, because we're competitive, and he had three bids within 10% of mine, and one bid that was half of mine. And
then you did look at the bid that was half of yours.
And I looked at the guy's bid, because typically what happens when somebody underbids, it's, they scroll through the drawings and find ways to blame the architect. They look for ways to blame the design team. Well, they missed this and they missed that. Well, so I took his bid and I went through it. Well, I hate to say, he was missing about $1.2 million worth of stuff.
Yeah. Not even addressed. Yeah.
Well,
the interesting thing that I find in the work that I've been doing with you is how many restaurant owners have second gen equipment, and they want to go with that, or they want to go find their own online kitchen equipment because they know it's going to be cheaper, and they're buying it in piecemeal.
And it's it's a disaster every time.
And it burns through your timeline because you're trying to do these, and you don't even know how to negotiate restaurant equipment as a restaurant owner in most cases. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. So let's just put some asterisks in the sky. Number one, I know I've bought over 450 kitchens. Okay.
A lot
if
of
you ever seen
too.
a line item stack of a kitchen, a commercial kitchen and bar, there's 300 or 400 items on that list.
That's true.
And there's still things that we miss. Okay. So if I do this every day, what makes you think you're going to do it better, quicker, and cheaper than I can? Number one. Okay. Number two, when it comes to, it's just very frustrating when it comes to permitting, and the owners say, well, no, we're going to do that because, we want to save your fee. Well, what are you saving? Okay. Let's say my fee is $10,000 and you want to save $10,000. Well, first of all, you're looking at spending $3 million on a restaurant, and you want to
Mm-hmm.
save $10,000 on my fee. Okay, well, you can scratch it off as dollars, but what are you eliminating when you eliminate that $10,000? Well, you're eliminating 40 years of experience and probably one of the most knowledgeable guys in a restaurant in the country.
Well, and not to mention the relationships you've already built in so many of these cities with the building and the planning divisions.
Exactly.
You know how to expedite permitting processes that most restaurant owners, even owners of multiple restaurants, do not know how to do.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you a quick story. So we just got a permit for a restaurant, and we're not building it. And the inspector comes to do his pre-inspection. He said, where's Bruce? And I looked at him, he goes, he's not here. Did he know about the meeting? Well, there's no reason for him to be here because he's not building it. He said, okay. Well, let me tell you, we're going to have a tough road to go.
And he's not doing that out of spite.
No.
He's doing that because he's looking at what he is pre-inspecting, right?
Correct.
And he's seeing everything that's on the list that you would capably handle, and he can do it in shorthand with you instead of having to deal with a new contractor,
That inspector
a new
and
architect.
Right. That inspector and I have probably built 20 restaurants together.
Yeah. It's a long-term relationship.
If you're in the restaurant building looking to build, let me tell you something. That's a big card to have in your hand.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying I get any special treatment. They don't give me special treatment, but they know what my knowledge is and they know what my experience is. So they know when they come to do their inspections, they're in and out in no time.
Right. Yeah. And they know, remember when you were telling me the other day about delivering plans and they were like, I've never seen plans like this.
Yeah. We just went through a plan review with a city north of Dallas. It's a 110,000 square foot project that we're working on. The buildings there, this is a renovation and we've changed the use. But inside that use, there's 3 restaurants that I designed. And this is from the head building inspector. He called our office. He talked to Joe. He said, there's 160 pages to this set of plans. He said, and I've went through the first 30 sheets. He said, it's unbelievable the detail that is here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a list of the things that I typically look for, and I'm going to send it to you, and then you can tell me what page it's on.
That's awesome.
Okay, so to give you an example, in one city, it took 5 months to get a permit. In this city, it was 3 weeks. Because their attitude towards, we got an architect, design firm, and engineer set of plans here that are sealed by professionals. Yeah, I'm going to check a few things just to see if they're code compliant. Everything is. What do they need to review the rest of the set for? Yeah, exactly. Just make it subject to field inspector approval, because that's where that's the inspector's the last person to see it before it gets closed up. He's the one that makes sure what's on the plan is what you're building. And that, you've heard me say this, the inspectors they're on our team. They don't do any favors for us, but from the owner's standpoint of view, if we designed it with professionals and it's engineered with professionals and we're building it with professionals and we have an inspector that inspects it, that gives the owner, when he gets a final CO, he's had everybody as a partner in building his project. Now, correct. It's perfect. So in this question, it was, I took it towards it was, in the starting of she's looking to start a design process. Let me tell you the golden rule. Second gen space are what they are. Okay. And I can tell you there's more problems in second gen space than if you're starting from scratch, number one. Number two, if you're signing a 10-year lease, why would you even consider using a second gen equipment that's 8 years old? When you build a first generation space, right, you get a 1-year warranty on everything there. So you got one guy to call, which is us, which means that you have no facility issues for 12 months.
Right. Which is the most important 12 months of your restaurant's entire operation.
It gives you 12 months to do nothing but a focus on getting food, the quality of food out of the kitchen to the person at the table. That's where your focus should be.
Now, not to change the subject, but this is interesting. It really surprised me when I first started working with you, how many people will shop your bid. And this is in the design process. So they've contracted you for the most part to do the design and build, but they're shopping your bid for the build, correct? And how often does that happen? I mean, you have built more than 500 restaurants. How often does that happen now versus 10 years ago?
It probably happens now, probably 40% of the time.
40% of the time. Isn't that a higher percentage than it was 10 or maybe even 20 years ago?
It's a little bit higher. Since COVID, it's kind of all changed since COVID.
So you kind of come to expect that your bid is going to be shopped.
Well, I tried to get an answer out of them before we start designing it.
Because how long does the bid shopping process take?
Typically,
I mean,
2
it can take months.
2 months.
Yeah. And then you're back in meetings with them trying to explain line items of somebody else's bid versus your bid.
Well, yeah,
and it just seems like
it is. And when the owners come, well, we're going to do the kitchen ourselves, so we don't have to pay your fee. Oh, we're going to do the furniture ourselves, so we don't have to pay your fee. Okay. I got one now where they're doing the kitchen themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened, but I got 24-inch aisle between the cook line and the equipment behind them.
And what's your preferred?
39.
Yeah. 24 is tight.
You're not working with 24. You're not going to be able to stand in front of the oven when you open the oven under range when the door opens.
That's a good point.
And what happened there, I don't know. Because they didn't want to pay my
So
fee.
do they just put then they just put the equipment in place and then they call you back in to hook everything up, or do they expect whoever has done that to?
No. We hook it up because we have the electrical and the plumbing permits.
Gotcha.
So, the licensed plumber has to complete the project.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not up to us. How do I know if they don't? I don't know if they got a bunch of children that are going to work back there in 24-inch. I don't know. I wasn't involved in it. I've never seen the kitchen plan until the equipment showed. Well, I still haven't. The equipment showed up. We let them in.
And so they didn't follow any of your manufacturing plant design in the kitchen. They went with, or did they use that and roughly?
I designed where the kitchen needed to be, so the manufacturing steps are there.
Right.
All as they did was they bought the equipment and placed it where they thought they needed to place it.
Perfect.
Because they own one restaurant. They own one restaurant. So what am I going to tell them?
Right. You
who
built more than 560 restaurants. Yeah.
But,
I get it.
Well, but I got deleted from that part of the project because they don't want to pay my fee. Mm-hmm. So they don't understand. They never asked, what does your fee include? And if they did, I would tell them, well, 40 years experience and the experience of over 500 units. I don't know how many more people in this business that could say that.
But and it's not just that, it's the fact that you build for a restaurant to make money. You're thinking revenue pods from the moment you walk into a site and look at a site. And you're thinking of how you can create all of this exponential revenue for the owner. And I have never met another restaurant, architect, design firm, build, general contractor,
before I start putting lines on paper. That's the first thing I think of.
Yeah. And those are the most important questions to ask the owners from the front end. And so that you know how to design and build the restaurant accordingly so that you're making it a revenue profit machine for them. And I have never seen another approach like that.
Well, and I thank you for that. But You know, they originally called me to design their restaurant because evidently they didn't know how. So why would you hire me and then tell me how to do it? Doesn't make sense. So
Right.
when I walk
Well,
away from well, she wants to know when do you walk away? Well, after the third meeting and the owner's sitting there and he knows more than I do, I'm going to give him his deposit back. Say, you don't need me.
yeah. And this is not an arrogant thing. You're the
No,
farthest thing from arrogant ever. It's
it
just
has
that if
nothing.
you're going to continue to have this back and forth battle, it's going to happen all the way through the process.
Correct.
And at some point you decide it's just not worth it.
No, no,
I mean, I
because
know when you were out here in Laguna, you had stabilized or we're moving forward with a contract that seemed a little iffy because he was out getting bids and all that kind of thing. Stabilized it one day. And I think even a few hours later, you said, that's it, I'm walking away, because he came back with something else. And you said, okay, I thought we had this all figured out. And, it's the pain is more than it's worth. It's just, the pain is more. And I was
the
telling you
knowledge
before
and experience starts with the first line on the paper.
yes,
Okay. And
agreed.
there's things that I've done in the design world that that owner doesn't know. But there's an owner out there that knows because he's the one that's profiting from it.
And they're the ones who are telling those people to go to you.
Yes.
You're not out there actively marketing for new clients.
No.
These people are calling you because someone has referred them who has been in a happy situation as a restaurant owner. And then they continue to question you. I mean, I've had the same thing happen in my marketing world where they call me because I'm known for the strategic marketing and leverage and all this sort of stuff that I build
Right.
into these restaurants. And then they fight me every step of the way. And I get that their opinion is important and I'll take their opinion into account. But I also know that after doing this for 35 years, I know that these unique concepts that I embed into restaurants work. And, and when it becomes this kind of battle, and like we were saying at the beginning, you and I have been in this business long enough that we begin to get that spidey sense from the very first meeting.
Yeah. But
From the
let me
very first meeting.
categorize it and make it simple for everybody that's listening. Okay. When you get trouble with the law, you hire an attorney. Do you hire that attorney, then argue with him when he comes up with the solution to the problem? Or you let him do his job and keep you out of jail or whatever the case may be.
Right.
When you hire an accounting firm and let's say you got a letter from the IRS that they've discovered you owe $500,000 in back taxes. When you hire the accountant to handle that, do you sit there and argue with him and tell him how to do his job? Or do you let him do his job and get you off the hook and you owe nothing? Why did you hire him? Because somebody told you that he's done this hundreds of times. Okay. We're in the same category.
Yes, agreed.
The $500,000 that you owed in taxes, that's the cost of your kitchen.
Agreed.
Do you want somebody involved in that kitchen that knows what equipment works, that knows what equipment's overpriced for the value? I mean, you want to deal with somebody like that? Or you just want to do it yourself? This is not a do-it-yourself business. Although there's been some lucky ones out there that pull it off. But I can tell you, 18 months later, they got a disaster on their hands, typically.
Well, and there are a lot of architects out there who say they are restaurant architects, but they are not operating at the level of restaurant architecture that you are operating at.
No.
Because you are building from a different concept in your mind from day one.
Correct.
From day one, like you said, before you even put the pencil to paper, you know how that concept is going to make the most money. You know how to design and build it.
But that's our checklist. When we're sitting with a new client, okay, you're how big is your lease? We're going to do 5,000 square feet on this one. Okay, what's your revenue expectation? Oh, we're going to do 10 million a year out there. Not at 5,000 square feet, not at this address. And when they become unrealistic, then typically the whole thing's unrealistic.
Correct.
But now when we interview clients and we say, what's your revenue expectation? When they say, well, what do you think it's going to be? Okay. They're asking me to tell them what my thoughts are. Why? because I've done it more than once.
Mm-hmm.
And
In multiple cities and regions.
And when we're looking at this, a paper schematic design, if he's got 12 seats at the bar, I got a pretty good idea how much money he's going to make at the bar. If he's got 30 seats at the bar, I got a real good idea how much money he's going to make at the bar. You see what I'm saying? I mean, so all that knowledge and all that happens, that's interjected to the first line on the paper.
Yep,
and that tells me where do I put the front door in? How big the dining room should be versus the bar. And I mean, check average plays a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
You just
Which is also one of the primary questions we ask.
Yeah. I mean, and you just don't sit there and design a rectangle box of 5,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. Wow, this really looks good. Yeah, it does look good. But does it function? Does it make money? And those are the kitchens, like we said earlier, those are the ones that you can sit in the dining room and look right into the dish pit. Because, correct. Is that a problem? But look at the circulation path. Yeah, I am looking at the circulation path. So is everybody else that's sitting there eating dining. They're looking at green beans and corn and bread and gravy on the floor.
That is correct. Yeah.
35 feet from them.
Right. When we are writing the book that we're writing, one of the big chapters in the front is about the revenue pods that we talk about, that you've introduced as a concept in the restaurant industry. And we break all the revenue pods down. Well, it's not just the physical revenue pods, it's the psychic revenue pod.
Oh, yeah.
It's the experience that the patron is having in the restaurant. And there are several, 5 or 6 revenue pods that we mentioned there that are psychic, that really have to do with the customer not wanting to see that. The customer not wanting to see, when a one stall bathroom isn't locked and someone opens the door to the dining room, with somebody in there. These are things that, the experience they have walking in with the host, the experience they have in the bar versus the dining room. All of these things are psychic experiences, and they are huge revenue pods, big builders.
Yes.
And it all comes down to design and training. But design is the key. It's the foundation.
So let's finish up on this question. When we pass on the build side, I'm going to tell you what every restaurant design that I do, it's very complicated to build. And when they bring somebody inexperienced, I'll give you an example. I had somebody hire a tilt wall contractor to build probably one of the most detailed restaurants I ever designed.
And when you say tilt wall contractor, what does that mean?
Tilt wall contractor, they build warehouses.
Okay. That's what I thought.
By the train tracks. That's where things are stored. They build 25-foot tall, 1 million square foot buildings that are built they're concrete box. And the restaurant owner actually hired a tilt wall contractor, and I have no idea why he even bid on it. But he won the contract because his bid was $300,000 less than mine. Well, at the end of the day, that $300,000 that he saved cost him a total of $700 in the end.
Yeah.
And I can't begin to tell you the fee because I was there every week trying to. When I have to get involved in the means and methods, they're in trouble.
Right. Exactly. When they have to bring you in on the back end because the build isn't going well, or the build has been done and it's not working properly.
They're better off. They're better off drawing a line in the sand and firing who they got, and just bring us in.
Yeah.
Because it's never a happy environment after that.
No, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. And I've been in situations like that too, on the marketing end. When I walk a 2,800 square foot restaurant and I got 122 items on a punch list, and there's things that I've rejected, not fix or repair, rejected. I probably had 40 line items on there that I rejected to work, period. Wow.
Tear it out and redo it.
Yeah.
Whether it got done or not, I have no idea. But, you you're asking somebody who designed your business to build your business. To me, having that same guy there, I already know what it's going to look like. Okay. I envision what it looked like when I was drawing it. So why would you hire somebody out of that loop when you can continue with the guy? Because let me tell you, while we're in permit, we're typically buying out the project.
Mm-hmm.
When we wait for the first round of comments, because that tells us what the city likes and dislikes. And if there's things on it that they dislike, then we know. After we get that first list of comments, that's when we start the buyout. We start the buyout of the marble, the tile, all the finishes, all the fixtures, the light fixtures, everything. And we even start on the kitchen. So we have typically 50 to 60% of the project bought out the day we get the building permit.
And like you've said before, you don't wait for the kitchen to be done before you start front of house.
No.
You're doing simultaneous work.
Correct.
Because sometimes the kitchen will get held up on a permitting process or a building inspection process.
My goal when I build a restaurant is to finish the back of the house first. Mm-hmm. Because if you got something, a piece that is wrong or missing, it's typically a 4 to 6 week lead time. Right. And typically the restaurant was designed for it, and you just can't go to a dealer and buy that piece. But if in the front of the house I get, if for some reason the tile that we're putting down isn't, something's wrong with it, we can't get the same stuff, take the old stuff out and put you know what I'm saying? The finishes are always the last thing to happen in the front of the house.
Yeah.
So,
but you're buying everything
correct
in the permitting process so that you're keeping everything expedited. And the other thing too, that a lot of people don't recognize is that, you've got the same people working for you, the plumbers, the electricians, all of those people, they're all working for you as a crew. They're your crew. They're not people you go out and hire independent contractors of.
No.
They're all in your stable.
And
they've been with you for decades.
We don't bid out subcontractor stuff. We use the same guys over and over and over again, have for years. I mean, we got people that've been with us 30 years. And let me tell you something. Everybody on one of my projects, everybody knows how to build a restaurant. Because if they didn't know it, I taught them how. So I don't have plumbing in the way of the electrician. And I don't have electrical in the way of the plumber. And I don't have mechanical work in the way because they all talk, right. And they all communicate, and it's a very smooth process.
Correct. It's all expedited.
So
front to end. All right. Well, I thought that was great. I thought that was a great answer. Do you have anything else to add to her question?
No, that was a, 30-minute answer, but pretty much answered everything that she was asking.
I love it, though.
Sorry for the other people on your list. I guess we'll have to make another episode.
Yeah, well, for now, we've done 3 episodes in a row, folks, of questions from all of you on different episodes that we've done. So make sure that you go in and see some of these episodes in full, because you can ask questions from whatever episode you feel like and continue to put those into the YouTube comments or our masteringrestaurantrevenue.com community. And we are here to answer these questions maybe once every quarter, however it works. We'll get these questions answered and help you out. And we'll be doing some live Q&A episodes in the near future, bringing in some guests on in the near future as well. So thank you for listening so raptly to our episodes and coming up with these questions, because anybody who's brave enough to ask a question, there's 100 others of you out there thinking the same question. So I'm glad that you guys are putting these questions forward.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anything else to add, Bruce?
No, I think that's it for today.
Yeah, we had great time answering these questions, and we will let you folks go, and we will see you next week in Mastering Restaurant Revenue. You guys make it a great week.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining Bruce and Diane on this journey of mastering restaurant revenue. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your feedback helps them deliver even more of what you want to hear. Until next time, keep refining your approach, stay passionate about your craft, And here's to your restaurant's continued success.